Diplomatic passport scandal, Sierra Leone in the global cocaine web. Welcome to the Bold African Voice, BAV, where truth is our compass and accountability is our mission. I'm Ahisatu Kamara Kargbo. Across the shimmering waters of West Africa, a scandal unfolds that could redefine Africa's diplomatic credibility. A wanted drug lord, a mysterious passport, and a nation's reputation on the line. This isn't just a story about Sierra Leone. It's a wake-up call for the entire continent. In a dramatic twist worthy of a Netflix crime drama, Turkish authorities have reportedly extradited Abdullah Don Vito, Alp Üstün, an alleged cocaine baron with familial ties to Jos Leijdekkers, aka Bolle Jos, from Dubai to Turkey on an Interpol red notice. According to multiple sources, Üstün was carrying, or in possession of, a Sierra Leone diplomatic passport, fueling renewed scrutiny of how diplomatic documents may be weaponized by transnational criminals. But beyond the sensational headlines lies a tangled web of geopolitics, weak institutions, African transit corridors, and the all-too-familiar dance between impunity and accountability. Let's take a step back, compare across the continent, and peer cautiously into what might come next. And yes, I'll throw in a joke or two just to lighten the cocaine-laden air. What we know and what remains murky. The archetype. Don Vito, Interpol, and the extradition. Reports via Turkish media, I-Verify, and Sierra Leonean press confirmed that Üstün and an associate, Hassan Lala, were apprehended in Dubai and extradited to Turkey in early October 2025. Üstün is alleged to have led a criminal syndicate known as Shiruk, while Lala purportedly handled the financial operations. The linkage between Üstün and Leijdekkers is partly established. Previous investigations suggest that Üstün is Leijdekkers' brother-in-law via marriage to Nadia Allah. The claim that Üstün possessed a Sierra Leone diplomatic passport, allegedly acquired through Bolle Jos influence, is circulating widely in Sierra Leonean media, though as of now, Turkish authorities have not publicly confirmed that aspect with firm proof. Sierra Leone's government has indicated it is investigating whether the fugitive Dutch baron, Leijdekkers, has benefited from high-level protection in the country. In short, the core arrest and extradition seems solid, the familial connection is credible, and the passport claim is plausible but unverified, yet terribly convenient for scandal writers. Bolle Jos, Leijdekkers, from European fugitive to Sierra Leone. Resident. Leijdekkers, a Dutch national, was convicted in absentia by a Rotterdam court, 24 years, for trafficking more than 7 tons of cocaine and other crimes. Multiple sources suggest he has resided in Sierra Leone since at least early 2023, using aliases, notably Omar Sharif, and benefiting from protective networks. In one notable image, Schatzarch video, Leijdekkers was seated at a church mass in Tihun, January 1, 2025, just 2 rows behind President Julius Maada Bio, allegedly adjacent to Bio's daughter, Agnes. The Dutch government has requested his extradition, though Sierra Leone does not currently hold an extradition treaty with the Netherlands. In July 2025, a Dutch court seized $112 million in ill-gotten gains linked to Leijdekkers, underscoring the scale of his laundering and assets. It's telling that a convicted European drug lord might sleep or host parties in Freetown, potentially under the radar of his homeland's law enforcement. If this sounds like a mafia boss taking a sabbatical in a tropical getaway, it's not far off, except this is real. And the stakes are billions. Why this matters: Africa in the narco crosshairs, the African transit model, West Africa as a cocaine hub. It is no secret among analysts, Latin American cartels frequently route cocaine shipments via West Africa en route to Europe. Weak maritime control, porous borders, and complicit intermediaries make the region a tempting corridor. Sierra Leone, in particular, is emerging as a critical node. According to Africa Confidential, Leijdekkers may have taken over an existing Sierra Leonean smuggling network and co-opted local security and transport infrastructure. Other African nations face similar pressure. Guinea-Bissau has long been labeled a narco-state thanks to its recurring role in facilitating cocaine shipments from South America to Europe. Nigeria, too, has seen periodic seizures and arrests involving transatlantic routes, with traffickers exploiting its huge coastline and diaspora networks. Mozambique, in East Africa, is sometimes used as a route to Asia. In Angola and Democratic Republic of Congo, illicit mineral trafficking and regional conflict may overlap with drug routes, although less is publicly documented. In every case, the same pattern emerges. External cartels seek footholds in states with weak checks, internal corruption, and strategic geography, institutional weakness, and the passport loophole. The purported use of a Sierra Leone diplomatic passport, if true, is emblematic of a broader problem, when state documents become tools of personal enrichment or shielding. If criminals can roam with diplomatic immunity, or at least harness it, then the state's sovereignty is being sold piece by piece. Compare across Africa. Some countries issue golden passports or investment citizenships which have drawn scrutiny, e.g. in West Africa, certain Gulf states. In states with weak oversight, it's easier for racketeers to bribe their way into diplomatic ranks or conspire with officials to produce bogus credentials. Where the Foreign Service or diplomatic corps is inadequately audited, abuses become harder to trace. Thus, the Sierra Leone allegation is not just about a single passport. It's symptomatic of the easier slide from corruption to complicity. Political capture and reputational risk. When a criminal like Leijdekkers appears casually in state occasions, church, national events, next to the president and his family, optics are disastrous. That he is allegedly linked romantically to Agnes Bayo, the president's daughter, intensifies the perception of political capture. In March 2025, Sierra Leone's immigration chief, Alusine Kane, was reportedly dismissed after videos surfaced showing him receiving a gift from Leijdekkers. One hopes this is not just a public relations sacrifice. If it is, that's a trope. Blame the corridor guard. Keep the minister unscathed. Critical reflections and risks. Correlation proven guilt. We must note, none of this proves that Sierra Leonean officials knowingly colluded in drug trafficking, though multiple threads suggest negligence or willful blindness. The passport story, while convenient, remains unverified by Turkish or Sierra Leonean authorities. It is possible that Üstün carried a diplomatic passport erroneously, forged or duplicated, without state consensus. Officials were misled, or intermediaries exploited bureaucratic loopholes. External cartels manipulated local actors, who did not fully grasp the gravity or exposure of their decisions. What matters is that the appearance of complicity may inflict just as much damage. Entrenchment and the blowback problem. Even if Sierra Leone launches reforms or cooperates with international law enforcement, the infrastructure of criminal commerce is entrenched. Smuggling routes, money laundering networks, complicit real estate, and political influence do not disappear overnight. Moreover, reprisals are possible. Corrupt actors or cartels may respond with intimidation, leaks, or destabilization attempts. Any anti-narcotic campaign must contend with organized resistance, local and international. Africa-wide spillover. If Sierra Leone becomes a visible hub, traffickers may shift to neighboring states, Liberia, Guinea, Ivory Coast, etc. The Mono River Union region, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, is especially vulnerable to being a shared corridor. In fact, Front Page Africa has already warned that Liberia is feeling tremors. Weak states, e.g. in Central Africa, may become alternative corridors. If law enforcement pressure rises in one country, criminals often migrate to the path of least resistance. What to watch? A forward-looking outlook with a dash of hope. 1. Independent international audits of diplomatic systems. Sierra Leone and similarly vulnerable states should bring in external experts, Interpol, UNODC foreign auditors, to inspect the diplomatic passport issuance process, detect irregularities, and rebuild credibility. A fresh, impartial audit could help deter future abuses. 2. Mutual legal assistance and new treaties. Given that Sierra Leone lacks an extradition treaty with the Netherlands, it needs to negotiate formal mutual legal assistance and extradition pacts, not just with Europe but broadly, Gulf states, Turkey, etc., and fast. 3. Asset recovery and transparency mechanisms. The seizure of $112 million from Leijdekkers is a reminder. The money is there. Sierra Leone should join global asset recovery regimes, track illicit flows, and demand that partners freeze suspect assets, repatriate, and publish the results to rebuild trust. Transparency, what a novel idea for governments used to secrecy. 4. International cooperation and intelligence sharing. Turkey, UAE, Netherlands, Belgium, and Sierra Leone must coordinate. The capture of Don Vito demonstrates that extraditions can work if political will aligns. 5. Strengthen judicial independence and protect whistleblowers. Reform of the judiciary, protection for investigative journalists, and legal immunities for whistleblowers are indispensable. Without them, corruption will merely migrate under the radar. 6. Early warning and regional guards. Beyond Sierra Leone, regional bodies, ECOWAS, AU, should create narco early warning systems, sharing intelligence on flight paths, port seizures, suspicious financial flows, and passport abuse across borders. 7. Civil society pressure and media exposure. No reform without pressure. Sierra Leone's civil society, media, and diaspora must demand accountability, publicly and consistently. Every compromised passport, questionable land deal, or luxury car should raise eyebrows. A few dark grins in the midst of the malaise. If diplomatic passports were trophies, then apparently Sierra Leone has been handing out narco VIP passes like party favors. One wonders whether Don Vito requested turbo diplomatic status, because sometimes criminal empires need faster global mobility. As the world cracks down on lip balm with undeclared scents, it's ironic that major drug lords may have been quietly strolling or sitting in church behind presidents. Emerging flashpoints and developments to watch. Will Sierra Leone formally acknowledge or refute the passport claim by Turkish or UAE authorities? Will Bolle Jos Leijdekkers be arrested in Freetown, and if so, will the government resist or cooperate? Can the Netherlands secure cooperation without a treaty? Might Sierra Leone offer conditional cooperation or plea deals? Which senior officials will or must resign? Immigration, foreign affairs, security? Could this scandal provoke sanctions, foreign aid conditionality, or diplomatic isolation for Sierra Leone? Will regional neighbors, Liberia, Guinea, become spillover hubs, or will they preemptively clamp down? Africa's diplomatic dilemma when narco networks go international. The Don Vito Bolle Jos saga isn't just a Sierra Leonean embarrassment. It's a mirror reflecting a continental crisis, the ease with which criminal power slips into official privilege. From Guinea-Bissau's generals to Central African businessmen with mysterious passports, the misuse of diplomatic systems across Africa has quietly evolved into one of the most underreported corruption pipelines of the 21st century. Let's call it what it is: narco-diplomacy. When cocaine meets the coat of arms, the Guinea-Bissau example, Cocaine Republic Inc. Guinea-Bissau was once crowned the world's first narco state. Between 2005 and 2014, several senior military officers, some even wearing state medals, were indicted in U.S. courts for trafficking cocaine on behalf of Colombian cartels. In 2013, the country's Navy chief, José Américo Bubo Nachuto, was arrested in an undercover DEA operation on a yacht in the Atlantic. He was later convicted in New York. See U.S. Department of Justice, 2014. Now, imagine the irony. While West African youth risked their lives crossing the Mediterranean, their leaders were busy exporting white powder to European ports. Nigeria, the dual economy. Oil above, cocaine below. Nigeria's story is a study in contrasts. On the surface, it's Africa's largest economy. Underneath, it's a logistical giant for illicit trade, not just drugs, but also financial laundering, cybercrime, and human trafficking. In 2023, NDLEA Chief Buba Marwa warned that over 40 drug barons had assets worth N$500 billion under investigation. Premium Times, March 2023. Yet, as enforcement tightens at home, traffickers adapt. They blend narcotics into the oil trade, ship them in luxury cargo, or, as in Sierra Leone's case, exploit diplomatic loopholes. Mozambique and the Indian Ocean route. While West Africa faces the Atlantic flow, East Africa quietly battles its own storm. Mozambique's vast coastline, weak maritime surveillance, and proximity to Indian Ocean trade routes make it ideal for heroin and cocaine transit. The Heroin Coast Report by the Global Initiative 2022 estimated that up to 40 tons of heroin move annually through East African ports. And here's the kicker. Some of the same smugglers are now diversifying into wildlife trafficking and illegal timber. Even crime has gone green. The Sierra Leone angle. How did we get here? The country once known for blood diamonds now risks being branded for powder politics. After years of fragile post-war recovery, Sierra Leone's institutions still suffer from the 3 C's: corruption, connections, and convenience. Here's the tragicomic part. Officials defend dubious appointments by invoking sovereign prerogative, yet citizens can't even renew a passport without a bribe. Somewhere between a minister's handshake and a trafficker's boarding pass, the Republic's moral compass got misplaced. Systemic loopholes identified: 1. Diplomatic passports sold or gifted for favor. Investigations in 2021 already revealed hundreds of passports issued to non-career diplomats. 2. Weak embassy. Oversight. Most embassies lack biometric systems to authenticate staff, enabling forged accreditations. 3. Political interference in immigration. Appointments often reward loyalty rather than competence. 4. Lack of asset and lifestyle audits. When mid-level officials drive SUVs worth $150,000 on $1,000 salaries, something's amiss. As one civil servant quipped anonymously to Politico SL, "Here, a diplomatic passport is not for diplomacy, it's for disappearing." Global fallout. Why Europe cares so much. European law enforcement agencies have good reason to panic. The Antwerp port cocaine seizures have tripled since 2020, and a large fraction of these shipments trace back to West African intermediaries. Interpol's 2025 report on transatlantic narcotics flows specifically mentions a consistent pattern of forged or misused diplomatic documents, originating from African states with weak governance. The Dutch, Belgian, and Turkish authorities now see Sierra Leone as an unintentional safe house. If the pattern continues, we could see visa restrictions, sanctions, or even blacklisting under EU anti-money laundering frameworks. When you think about it, that's the geopolitical version of getting unfriended by your donors. The governance equation: weak institutions plus greedy men equals strong criminals. Sierra Leone's challenge is no longer merely reputational, it's existential. If drug money begins dictating political survival, elections risk becoming cartel contests disguised as democracy. Across Africa, the same equation plays out. Guinea-Bissau, military complicity. Nigeria, financial laundering. South Africa, state capture 2.0. Kenya, narco-politics creeping into local elections. The irony. The criminals innovate faster than bureaucracies reform. A glimpse ahead, 2026 and beyond one. Diplomatic passport audit. The Foreign Ministry of Sierra Leone has hinted, per BBC Africa, October 2025, at engaging an external auditor, possibly the UK Serious Fraud Office, to trace every diplomatic passport issued since 2018. 2. Interpol Joint Task Force. Turkey, UAE, and Sierra Leone are exploring a trilateral task force to track fugitives with overlapping warrants. 3. ECOWAS Narco Security Compact, expected mid-2026, aimed at harmonizing port surveillance and data sharing across the sub-region. 4. Public outcry and civic resilience. Diaspora networks are increasingly vocal. In Canada, the US, and the UK, Sierra Leonean activists are calling for parliamentary inquiries into corruption and passport abuse. Perhaps humor can soften the blow. If Sierra Leone conducts a full audit, the number of diplomats may shrink faster than fuel subsidies after an IMF visit. The African Mirror, Lessons from the Continent Country. Infamous case, lesson learned or ignored, Guinea-Bissau Bubo Nachuto, 2013. Military power plus drug money equals narco-state Nigeria, NDLEA versus Barons, 2023. Crackdowns must extend beyond arrests. Hit the money. Mozambique heroin coast, 2022. Corruption thrives where oversight is absent. Ghana, Nayeli Ametefe, 2014. Elites can smuggle too, not just the poor. Sierra Leone Bolle Jos Vito, 2025. Diplomacy without discipline invites disaster. The Bolle Jos scandal should be Sierra Leone's wake-up call, not its bedtime story. It reveals how easily international criminals can hijack weak systems to launder reputations, literally with Made in Sierra Leone stamps. But it also offers a chance for rebirth, reform the Foreign Service, digitalize passport issuance, empower anti-graft institutions, and collaborate regionally. As for Don Vito, now facing trial in Turkey, his legacy might inadvertently help clean up an entire diplomatic network. Not all heroes wear capes, some wear handcuffs. Following the money trail from powder to power. They say money talks, but in Africa's underworld, it often sings in multiple languages. English for the bank clerks, French for the offshore accounts, Arabic for the gold traders, and Pidgin when it greases the local customs officer's palm. The Bolle Jos Don Vito cocaine saga has peeled back a curtain many governments wish would stay closed. How drug fortunes quietly morph into political funding, property acquisitions, and flashy investment summits. In other words, narco-capitalism with diplomatic etiquette. 1. The real estate laundromat. In Sierra Leone's capital, Freetown, high-rise luxury apartments now sprout like mushrooms after a tropical downpour. Developers rarely disclose their investors. Land records vanish faster than rainfall on Wilkinson Road. Investigators suspect that proceeds from West African cocaine trafficking are being funneled into beachfront developments at Lumley and Goderich, boutique hotels owned through shell companies registered in Dubai free zones. Imported SUVs and luxury villas used as assets for political loyalty rewards. Sound familiar? It should. In Ghana, the 2014 case of Nayeli Ametefe, the socialite caught smuggling 12 kilos of cocaine through Heathrow, exposed an entire web of politicians laundering illicit money via Accra's real estate boom. In Nigeria, the Ikoyi cash stash scandal and 13 billion found in an apartment reminded the public that bricks and mortar make excellent safes when your money can't go to the bank. As one Freetown journalist quipped, if these buildings could talk, they'd testify. 2. Narco-politics 101. Buying legitimacy, one donation at a time. The most lucrative payoff for traffickers isn't profit. It's protection. Across the continent, criminals cultivate influence through campaign contributions disguised as philanthropy, funding youth programs, mosques, or churches to gain moral cover, sponsoring football clubs or entertainment shows to rebrand as local heroes. In Sierra Leone, speculation swirls that foreign businessmen linked to Leijdekkers financed certain campaign events under the guise of diaspora investors. While no conclusive evidence has surfaced, the pattern fits a continental trend. Look at Kenya, where narcotics kingpins like the Akasha brothers, extradited to the U.S. in 2017, openly sponsored community events before their arrests. Their strategy? Blend in so well that arresting you looks like vandalizing charity. 3. Offshore alchemy, how cocaine turns into cryptocurrency and gold. While the world obsesses over gold rushes, the real action is in crypto rushes. Leijdekkers' network reportedly used Dubai, Istanbul, and Accra as laundering circuits. Bitcoin transfers covered the gaps between Colombian exporters, West African intermediaries, and European buyers. Meanwhile, Sierra Leone's gold dealers have quietly entered the script. UN trade data show a mysterious 30% rise in unofficial gold exports between 2022 and 2024, much of it routed through Dubai. Coincidence? Maybe. But when drug profits need mining origins, gold becomes the perfect disguise. Even Liberia's central bank flagged abnormal forex inflows in 2025 traced to fictitious mining cooperatives. The irony? They don't mine anything except loopholes. 4. Banking without borders, the Dubai and Istanbul connection. Dubai has emerged as the Switzerland of modern laundering, glittering, tax-friendly, and conveniently uninterested in too many questions. Reports by Transparency International 2024 and OCCRP 2025 reveal that at least 9 West African politically exposed persons, PEPs, own assets in Dubai under shell companies also linked to criminal associates. Turkey, too, has become an unexpected hub. With Don Vito now on trial there, prosecutors are digging into how his group used front companies in Istanbul's textile district to move millions disguised as export revenue. If convicted, his case may expose a continent-spanning financial pipeline stretching from Freetown to Antwerp via Dubai and Doha. If money could apply for frequent flyer miles, Africa's narco cash would be platinum elite. 5. The social cost. Addiction without accountability. Behind every glamorous villa lies a grim counter-reality, addiction rates rising among Africa's youth. In Freetown slums, police and NGOs report increased use of Kush, a synthetic cannabis blend often cut with cocaine residue. It's poetic injustice. The same networks exporting cocaine to Europe leave the leftover poison for local streets. In Nigeria, tramadol abuse surged so badly that the NDLEA confiscated over 2 billion tablets in 2023. In South Africa, the Cape Flats now resemble Rio's favelas, territories ruled by narco-youth gangs. So while the elite trade passports and properties, the poor trade their sanity for a high that ends in handcuffs or coffins. 6. Toward a continental response. From reform to reconstruction. A. Digital transparency. Adopt blockchain-based registries for passport issuance, land titles, and political donations. If we can track pizza deliveries, we can track diplomatic documents. B. Pan-African Financial Crime Unit ECOWAS, and the AU should establish an African Financial Intelligence Network, AFIN, a centralized hub linking national FIUs and banks. Information hoarding protects criminals, not sovereignty. C. Regional prosecutions and court reform domestic courts are too easily bent by politics. Regional mechanisms, like the ECOWAS Court or African Court on Human and People's Rights, should gain authority to try high-value corruption and narco cases. D. Rebranding diplomacy. Foreign ministries must vet honorary appointments, recall bogus envoys, and publish rosters online. Because when a wanted drug lord carries your diplomatic passport, your foreign policy is officially intoxicated. 7. Humor. Break the cocaine comedy club. If laughter heals, Africa might need a continental therapy session. In Sierra Leone, rumors say immigration offices will soon adopt a new motto: to serve and to seal your passport deal. In Nigeria, comedians joke that the only white substance moving faster than cement is the one that isn't taxed. And in Guinea-Bissau, soldiers now claim they're on high alert, emphasis on high. 8. The road ahead, from crisis to opportunity. Sierra Leone, and indeed Africa, can still flip the script. The continent's youth bulge, tech adoption, and diaspora activism offer the tools for genuine reform. What's missing is political courage. If nations digitize institutions, criminalize opaque donations, empower independent journalism, and cultivate cross-border intelligence, narco-diplomacy may become a historical footnote instead of a continental brand. The irony: the very scandal meant to disgrace Sierra Leone could instead redefine its governance legacy. If leaders choose transparency over tribe and principle over patronage. The people versus power. Can Sierra Leone reclaim its integrity? When a narco baron shows up at Sunday Mass sitting behind the president, even the angels start asking for ID. The Bolle Jos Vito affair has jolted Sierra Leone's public consciousness in ways unseen since the anti-corruption drives of the early 2000s. For once, politics and morality have found a common headline, and this time, citizens are not whispering. 1. The Parliament on the hot seat. In mid-October 2025, opposition MPs from the All People's Congress, APC, demanded a full parliamentary inquiry into the alleged misuse of diplomatic passports. They cited media revelations, Reuters, The Guardian, Le Monde, and questioned the Ministry of Foreign Affairs about accountability. The government's initial response? A familiar one-liner? Investigations are ongoing. Translated into Sierra Leonean street humor, that means we're waiting for the storm to pass. But this time, the storm has Wi-Fi. Social media activists on X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook, are broadcasting live parliamentary sessions, dissecting body language and hashtagging Truck Passportgate. Parliament's marble floor has never seen so many ring lights. 2. The church, the mosque, and the moral mirror. Religious leaders have joined the conversation, a rare cross-faith alliance demanding integrity from the ruling elite. The Council of Churches issued a pastoral letter calling the scandal a spiritual sickness in national conscience, while the Supreme Islamic Council condemned the abuse of trust that taints the name of our republic. In a sermon that went viral, one preacher quipped, "When a cocaine kingpin can kneel beside a president, you don't need a miracle, you need a moral reset." In a country where faith outnumbers internet subscriptions, pulpit power still matters. 3. Civil society and the rise of digital whistleblowers. The Campaign for Human Rights and Development International, CHRDI, has launched a portal inviting citizens to upload proof of passport racketeering and immigration bribery. Within 2 weeks, over 500 submissions poured in, from alleged forged IDs to audio clips of facilitation fees. Meanwhile, independent journalists at Africanist Press and Politico SL are cross-referencing government records with leaked WhatsApp chats. Every leak now trends before breakfast. Every denial spawns a meme by lunch. This is how 21st century civic resistance looks: laptops instead of loudspeakers. 4. Diaspora watchdogs. From frustration to force. Sierra Leone's diaspora, particularly in Canada, the UK, and the US, has gone from political spectators to global pressure groups. Diaspora networks like Saloni Accountability Forum, SAF, are demanding the recall of any diplomat under investigation and pushing donor nations to condition aid on reforms. They're armed with what local activists sometimes lack: freedom, funding, and Wi-Fi that doesn't buffer during outrage. The irony: Freetown's reputation may ultimately be saved by those living thousands of miles away. 5. Inside State House, damage control or denial. President Julius Maada Bio, facing unprecedented international scrutiny, has ordered a special verification task force to review all diplomatic passport issuances since 2018. State House calls it a decisive integrity measure. Critics call it Operation Shred the Evidence lightly. Insiders claim the committee's mandate is limited, excluding classified appointments, precisely the gray zone where abuse hides. As one analyst told BBC Africa, Sierra Leone doesn't need another committee, it needs consequences. 6. Youth and satire as resistance. Across Freetown's universities, students have turned outrage into art. Comedy skits titled Diplomatic Dealers rack up millions of views online. One spoof shows a customs officer checking a passenger's bag. "You have cocaine?" "No, sir. Diplomatic immunity." Cue laughter and uncomfortable silence. Humor, long Sierra Leone's survival mechanism, is becoming its protest language. 7. The 2026 election cloud. The scandal lands barely a year before Sierra Leone's 2026 general elections. Analysts predict that clean governance will become the new vote-winning slogan. Younger voters, roughly 60% of the electorate, are increasingly intolerant of corruption dressed as competence. If the ruling SLPP doesn't clean house soon, the ballot box might. And if the opposition mishandles the moment, voters will treat both camps like expired visas. 8. Continental comparisons. How other nations recovered. Ghana, 2014. After the Nayeli Ametefe scandal, Accra digitized customs and passport systems. South Africa, 2022. State capture inquiries empowered the National Prosecuting Authority. Kenya, 2017. Public Service Commission introduced lifestyle audits for senior officials. Sierra Leone can follow suit if it replaces rhetoric with reform and audits with arrests. 9. Forward-looking perspective, the road to redemption. Short-term, 2025-2026. Publish the full passport audit report. Suspend all honorary consul appointments pending verification. Introduce real-time digital verification at airports and embassies. Medium-term, 2026-2028. Create a National Integrity Commission, merging anti-corruption and foreign service oversight. Pass a Diplomatic Credentials Transparency Act, requiring parliamentary approval for new envoys. Long-term, beyond 2030, embed civic education curricula that link corruption to poverty outcomes. Strengthen the justice sector with autonomous budget and tenure protections. Rebuilding integrity is slow work, but so is rebuilding a collapsed reputation. 10. Closing reflection. When citizens become the custodians. In the end, this saga is less about Bolle Jos or Don Vito than about who guards Sierra Leone's name. Institutions may falter, but civic vigilance endures. If citizens demand transparency, not just in elections, but in everyday governance, from passport desks to procurement boards, the Republic can still write a new narrative. As one witty commentator posted online, Sierra Leone has exported diamonds, gold, and resilience. It's time we export integrity too. Continental repercussions. How Sierra Leone's scandal is redefining Africa's diplomatic trust map. The fallout from the Bolle Jos Don Vito saga is no longer confined to Freetown State House. It has drifted across ECOWAS, echoed in Addis Ababa, and raised eyebrows in Brussels and Washington. The question now haunting diplomats is simple but serious. If criminals can buy credentials, can we still trust the credentials? 1. ECOWAS, the regional domino effect. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has quietly placed diplomatic integrity and passport security on its 2026 ministerial agenda. Leaders fear that one member's scandal could become the region's collective shame, especially since ECOWAS passports are increasingly used for free movement. If Sierra Leone doesn't clean house fast, it could trigger stricter verification protocols at regional borders, temporary suspension of some travel privileges, and worst of all, a credibility downgrade that makes all ECOWAS diplomatic passports subject to extra scrutiny abroad. As one Nigerian commentator wryly noted, one man's Bolle Jos can ground everyone's boarding pass. 2. The African Union, image, integrity, and international credibility. The African Union, AU, prides itself on African solutions to African problems. But when those problems involve cocaine, fake passports, and global headlines, even Addis Ababa struggles to keep a straight face. The AU Commission on Political Affairs, Peace and Security is reportedly reviewing a continent-wide code of diplomatic ethics, which could include unified biometric registration for all African diplomats, annual financial disclosure for heads of mission, and mandatory background checks for honorary consuls. Imagine that, the AU rediscovering accountability because of a Sierra Leonean scandal. Perhaps history does have a sense of humor. 3. The European Union and the new trust tax. In Brussels, the European External Action Service, EEAS, has started treating West African diplomatic credentials with the caution of a suspicious customs officer. Reports suggest that EU embassies may soon require independent verification for diplomatic accreditations before granting Schengen privileges. In short, African nations could face a trust tax, higher verification costs, longer processing times, and tighter restrictions, all because a few bad actors turned diplomatic immunity into a business model. It's the bureaucratic equivalent of karma. 4. The United Nations and Interpol, cooperation or caution. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, and Interpol are now tracking patterns of diplomatic document misuse across Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East. Sources in Vienna hint that Sierra Leone may be placed under a special observation framework, combining anti-trafficking support with diplomatic system audits. If handled properly, that could be a blessing in disguise, a way to rebuild credibility under international supervision. If mishandled, it could become a scarlet letter on Sierra Leone's foreign policy resume. 5. The Diaspora as Africa's new integrity ambassadors. Ironically, while corrupt elites damage reputations, diaspora citizens are repairing them. Sierra Leoneans in Canada, Ghanaians in Germany, Nigerians in the US, all are lobbying for transparent governance back home. They raise funds for education, health, and civic programs, not for cocaine empires. The diaspora now represents Africa's moral reserve, educated, mobile, outspoken, and unbought. If governments won't protect their nation's reputations, the diaspora will, one tweet, petition, and fundraiser at a time. 6. The bigger picture, a continental crossroads. Africa now faces two divergent futures. Scenario 1, the cycle continues. Corruption festers, narco networks entrench themselves, and foreign partners quietly blacklist entire systems. Diplomatic passports become jokes, and national honor becomes collateral damage. Scenario 2, the reset begins. Governments learn, reform, digitize, and collaborate. A new culture of transparency redefines diplomacy, not as privilege, but as public trust. The choice is Africa's. History, as always, will invoice accordingly. Advice to African leaders: turning scandal into strategy. 1. Audit before you apologize. Don't wait for Reuters or The Guardian to break your scandals. Establish continuous internal audits for passports, contracts, and appointments before the world does it for you. 2. Digitize and decentralize. Manual systems breed manipulation. Adopt digital platforms that record every passport issuance, embassy posting, and diplomatic credential in real time. Transparency isn't a slogan, it's a software upgrade. 3. Reward integrity, not loyalty. Stop promoting the most obedient. Start promoting the most honest. A loyal thief remains a thief, just a patriotic one. 4. Engage the diaspora as oversight partners. Your citizens abroad are your loudest defenders and your sharpest critics. Invite them into reform committees and advisory boards. They have distance, data, and no fear of your motorcades. 5. Regionalize anti-corruption enforcement. A criminal in Freetown today is a campaign donor in Monrovia tomorrow. Create an ECOWAS anti-corruption tribunal to make impunity a regional crime, not a national inconvenience. 6. Lead by example. Declare your assets publicly. Let your ministers do the same. Africa's young people are no longer impressed by motorcades. They are impressed by receipts. 7. Protect the press and whistleblowers. A country that silences its truth-tellers is like a ship that throws away its compass. It will crash even on calm seas. 8. Reframe diplomacy as service, not status. Being called ambassador should mean responsibility, not immunity. Clean the title. It's Africa's most exportable currency. Summary of the key messages. Sierra Leone's passport scandal has exposed a broader African vulnerability where weak systems meet strong temptations. Transnational criminal networks exploit governance gaps to launder money, gain legitimacy, and corrupt institutions from within. Africa's image abroad now hinges on its ability to police its own diplomats and enforce accountability. Technology, transparency, and youth engagement are the continent's most potent weapons against corruption. Reform must start at the top, but its momentum will come from below. Citizens, journalists, and diaspora voices demanding integrity. The Bolle Jos affair is not merely a scandal, it is a syllabus, a harsh but necessary lesson in how nations lose and regain honor. And so, Africa stands at a moral crossroads. Either remain the stage where power excuses everything, or become the continent where principle finally trumps privilege. Final thought. If African leaders ever wonder how history will remember them, they need only ask one question. When power tempted me, did I serve my people or did I serve my passport? Because nations are not destroyed by enemies at the gate, but by silence at the top. Thank you for watching The Bold African Voice, BAV, your home for fearless African analysis and unfiltered truth. The scandal of Don Vito and Bolle Jos is more than a headline. It's a mirror reflecting the cracks in African governance. But from Freetown to Lagos, from Accra to Addis Ababa, Africans are demanding transparency and justice. The question remains, will our leaders listen or will history repeat itself? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And join the conversation as we continue to expose, educate, and empower.